Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another Metroid Prime Randomizer student race, round 5. I'm Elias Thompson. Joining me in the booth is Elias Thompson. How are you? We've got two runners today.
Sasquatch954 and someone else. I don't know how to pronounce their name, but I'm going to go ahead and go with SpkldJim. I will also be tracking, and I'm also the gatekeeper. So here in a few seconds, we should be able to get things started as we get ready. These runners are both 2 and 2 in challenge, which means they're going to have to win out if they want a chance to get to the top 8 bracket, fighting for their chances to stay alive here. We also have some runners agreements. It's a lot. It's a big list. Let me find it real quick. Let's see here. We've got random two-way elevators between areas, excluding Artifact Temple, crater entry. Random start, excluding Impact Crater. 1 to 3 starting items, and last but not least, ice spreaders as fillers. So, expect craziness as the countdown we see has already begun. T minus 7 seconds-ish. And we'll see where they start, what they get started with, and where they decide to go as we get started here. And I will have to quickly track these 1 to 3 starting items on both players. Chozo Ruins. Interesting. Will we start near Flagra again? Morph Ball. Okay. What a fun time. So we're right into the Zoid fight here with a Morph Ball and Power Beam. So I'm pretty sure Zoid has to have vanilla bombs. And if not, this is going to be a pretty short race. So yeah, we're going to see a pretty slow and possibly hairy Zoid fight from both of these runners here. They don't have charge, I believe, and they don't have space jump to very quickly get up there, although both of them get the slope jump to do it without it. So, with bombs, they'll be able to escape into the puzzle room and do the puzzle as well. We could see him go to Furnace, probably early, and then head into the front, towards the front of Chozo, slowly but surely, as they look for things like missiles, and then very soon, everything else. The real question is, who will kill Zoid first? Looks like SpkldJim gets the kill just before Sasquatch. Oh my goodness, what a surprise. It's bombs. Who would have guessed that bombs would have been this early? Interesting that that's a missile expansion and not the missile launcher. So that wasn't even the progression. But they're in good shape now. They both have Morph Ball, bombs, and missiles. Oh, they do have charge. Oh, well, that was unclear from the agreement, but good to know. And they have charge beam. So, as expected, we're going to see at the very least SpkldJim do the puzzle. Probably head into Furnace for a couple of quick checks and then head back, since they've got basically the Chozo Ruin starter package going for them now. And with that, it will also seem that both runners will follow more or less the same path until they probably start seeing what the elevator checks are. So with this charge beam, morph ball, bombs, and missiles, progression isn't required immediately. They did need it fairly early in the 2 Zoid checks, but now we can expect to see missile launcher fairly soon, perhaps at the bottom of furnace, which we will find out. Yeah, right there. So now missiles are logically in play. We may see 1 or 2 of the runners check the upper furnace if they so desire. SpkldJim is not interested though, and it would seem that neither is Sasquatch. So we won't know what that is. They obviously couldn't get it yet, so that's probably going into their logic, is they want they got plenty of other checks to check near the front of Chozo. We're going to be spit out here in a room whose name I forget, but includes one item here at the top and gets you access to places like Arboretum, Flagra, and Watery Hall, which is likely the next area we will see them go to. So as expected here, we're seeing basically follow the leader, although the leader has been SpkldJim for most of this. It could zigzag at any point as they basically follow us mostly linear path up to the front of Chozo, get some elevator checks in, and then we may start to see some route divergence towards the end of that. Looks like that might be... You know, I didn't catch what it was. It's an ice spreader, though. Boy, howdy. 1 of 8. Or 9, actually, I think. Missile expansion. And we'll probably get a quick scan check here. They don't have enough health, more than likely, to commit to it. It's an energy tank. So it might have been nice to pick up if they could have done it quickly, but we will not be seeing that energy tank again. I didn't actually catch if Sasquatch bothered to pick up the ice spreader, but I imagine that he would, so we'll go ahead and mark it. If not, I'm sure plenty of ice spreaders will show up. Sasquatch taking a safety save here, whereas SpkldJim is not. But I believe we'll be following a similar route. All right, so we're getting the main plaza checks here. From here, they can go through the intended sort of opening beginner path, where with bombs, you can pretty much check everything along this route as you get spit out into the vault area and get an elevator check on the way. Sasquatch is checking this front elevator first, though. SpkldJim, I didn't see what this item was, but they're definitely going for it. That was Talon Overworld, and I did not catch where in Talon Overworld it went. Meanwhile, SpkldJim getting the spider ball. It'll come in handy, especially if they decide to loop back to Dynamo. Catch what was behind that missile wall. It either wasn't important or they're going to check it again. And another eye spreader. Meanwhile, Sasquatch checking Ruined Shrine. Rewarded with a missile. And SpkldJim rewarded with an energy tank. Sasquatch as well. And it looks like SpkldJim has found yet another ice spreader, as well as space jump boots. You'll love to see it. So now movement will be a little faster, a little more fluid. And that does open a lot more options up, specifically in other areas. Meanwhile, Sasquatch trying to peek this item up top here. I don't think having much success. And it looks like they're either giving up or not liking what they see. Regardless, I don't think they could have gotten it without some extreme tomfoolery. Now, SpkldJim just checked the second elevator, and I missed it because I was watching Sasquatch check that. Vault has a missile expansion. With Sasquatch on his way to get his spider ball or spider beam, depending on who you ask, and space jump boots. With that space jump, though, SpkldJim gets the grapple beam, which was there on the half pipe in Main Plaza. Nice for things that you may not be fully comfortable dashing or R-jumping across. SpkldJim is also climbing Ruined Fountain. Looks like it's a beam there. Not sure which. Wave beam. Or SpkldJim. So if one of those elevators takes them to Magmore, they would be in decent shape. I know one of them, the front one, takes to Talon, and we'll have to watch Sasquatch closely to see where the second one goes. Viewers say it's Magmore, so I'll trust them. And now we'll see, sort of in a loop-de-loop way, SpkldJim check some of the checks Sasquatch has already made, and vice versa for Sasquatch. So at this point, with this loadout and an absence of various suit, we will probably see them head to Talon. And just based on positioning from that, SpkldJim is probably positioned the best with their routing to continue on. Like that went to Workstation. They're in Magmore Caverns. I will say, depending on where that elevator goes to Talon, Ice Beam could be required, because I didn't catch exactly where in Talon. And SpkldJim is pointing out with their, I guess, more fortunate routing, you could say. They do have Wave Beam, and so they can check Tower Chamber down here as well real quick before popping out. Supported with the X-Ray Visor. And I tell you what, X-Ray Grapple and Space Jump. I sniff a root cave, as long as that Talon elevator allows them. We're seeing Sasquatch go for the Wave Beam as well. Obviously, if you know the trick, you'll want to do it. Both of them getting in with these. And we're seeing SpkldJim back to main plaza and checking this elevator. I don't believe they've checked it yet. And potentially pursuing it. We'll probably see Sasquatch go to pick up the X-ray visor. Ah. So this takes them to Frigate Crash Site, which I think you need Ice Beam to progress through. Unless I'm thinking of the wrong elevator here. Yeah. So, gonna have to turn around, find Ice Beam, likely on Flagra, or in some chamber at this point. Very, very interesting. Sasquatch picking up the X-ray visor. And Sasquatch, maybe knowing that that would be a dead end, might catch up a little bit with SpkldJim here once they return to main plaza, if they decide not to make that detour. I do believe that is where SpkldJim is going. We'll see if it is where Sasquatch goes as well. And looks like it, although having a little trouble climbing the tree. Spying the tree, though, and seeing that it's some sort of beam combo. SpkldJim, either not comfortable with bomb jump or maybe thinking about coming back out afterward. Bothering to scan the scan points to open the gate. Takes a little extra time, but depending on your routing, could save time later. Now Sasquatch is actually going... Oh. Interesting. Sasquatch, I think, is going for back Chozo. Maybe upper furnace. Or crossway. I'm not sure how in logic those checks are with these settings. But if they are in logic, we're seeing a coin flip here. 2 checks on Flagra and 2 back there, although Sasquatch looking like he was just going for the save point and now heading to Flagra. Also worth noting, our antechamber might also be in play for vanilla Ice Beam. Actually, where is Sasquatch going? Oh, Sasquatch is saving. So they're going to dash across Magma Pool. Very dangerous, 3 E-tanks. No Various suit. Does get the dash, though. Sees the missile. Sees that missile. I can check this item, but cannot get it. I believe that was a power bomb expansion. So, some out of logic checks there from Sasquatch. We might see him death warp with all the health they lost. Chances are Sasquatch going to go to Flagra too. That does get those 3 checks out of the way. He'll never have to come back and check them. Meanwhile, SpkldJim is making, I don't know if I should say quick work of cutscene the boss, but work nonetheless as it dies. And it looks like The winner is missiles. Sasquatch actually going pretty much for every check that's not Flagra, it seems. Checking the top of Furnace, which is fully in logic. And at this point, could pay off potentially 50-50. As I don't think Ghost Sun Chamber is in logic without super missiles. I see Sasquatch get the advantage here, or get the logic needed to make what Jim is about to check in logic. So, wow. Get randoed. That does give Sasquatch a little bit of an advantage in that they have super missiles now, though, so they can make more checks later on that Jim cannot. I also don't know if Sasquatch got Grapple Beam or not in Main Plaza, so if anyone knows that, please let me know, although, no, I'm not sure. So now the check that Jim is making is fully within logic, and at this point we'll likely have our progression, if not perhaps one of the 3 possible checks in back Chozo if they, well, one of them is definitely in logic, although it's a pretty mean check, then potentially 2 others as well. It is worth noting, though, that if progression is here on Ghosts, Sasquatch will be able to dispatch them quicker with the super missiles. However, he's going to back Chozo. He's making the gamble. So we're about to see from Jim's side if this is the right or wrong call. You hate to see it. Another ice spreader for Jim. Gonna have to go find those super missiles. And Sasquatch is down to Crossway and Antechamber for Ice Beam, I think. Or Varia. We're basically looking for Ice Beam or Varia at this point. Antechamber, which means it is Ice Beam that is progression. And it has to be vanilla, I believe. Unless there is a check I am not thinking of. We've got Vanilla Ice as our progression. Although I do think Jim will go get the super missiles. And just like that, Sasquatch has got a temporary lead right now. It is worth noting that in current Randomania settings, at least for the tournament, point of no return items are very much in logic. So a lot of things like vanilla bombs, vanilla beams are perfectly within logic. You know, I don't think Jim got their super missiles. So now they are behind as well as superless. It is worth noting that with the Ice Beam there, Sasquatch will get a couple of other elevator checks. And I believe at least one of them. You know, that's a good point. One of them he can do without Ice Beam. And if it leads somewhere that's travelable, this might not be Ice Beam up here. Sometimes you just forget the possibilities when elevators get randoed. Having some toad troubles. Been there. Ooh. So that's a gravity suit and antechamber. Whether or not they'll be able to route that back in later or not remains to be seen. So we are basically forced to go through this elevator at this point. Sasquatch probably has Flagra in the back of his mind, but in the right path at the moment. Although, We're about to find out if Sasquatch got grapple beam or not. Because without ice beam, the two options up here will be quarantine monitor and quarantine cave. Quarantine monitor you can get to with a decent R-dash. And that's something Sasquatch will have to do to check it if they did not get grapple beam. Seems to be the case. Gets the dash, though. And it is thermal visor, putting Thardus in logic, technically. Oh, boy. Early required Thardus. Love to see it, hate to play it. Sasquatch can have a much quicker time here with super missiles, whereas Jim will not. He's probably going to get a little frustrated seeing that gravity suit, though. Well, folks, buckle in. We're in for a slow roll here. As the rock monster very slowly rolls across Quarantine Cave. We will see Jim get the thermal visor. Fairly easy check with the grapple beam that they have. But then they'll have to fight Thardus, just like Sasquatch. Now, it's worth noting here that Thardus does not have to have progression. You have to fight him because he's in the way of your way out. Because they have Spider Ball, whatever Thardus has, they can escape through the front door, essentially. And then they have access to essentially all of the front of mines. They can do labs, although they'll have to turn around if they don't find Ice Beam, or they can check the entirety of front Fendrana. Well, almost the entirety. And also get an elevator check for what that elevator is. That said, I sincerely hope Thardus is an ice spreader. It's also worth noting, and I believe someone in chat brought it up, that this is more or less how Thardus is intended to be fought. You don't have Spider or Grapple or anything like that, but it's Thermal, Wave, and Supers. Although, they don't have Varia, and so Thardus does hit a bit harder. Down to the last rock on the Sasquatch side. We'll find out real soon what Thardus has, and then then Sasquatch will have the freedom to check a lot more Ventrana. Moment of truth. Let's see what we've got. Not an ice spreader, but just as good. Sasquatch will be validating his run. Why Sasquatch attempted that slope jump with the spider ball is slightly confusing, but he gets up there regardless. Soon we'll see Jim follow in his footsteps as Sasquatch finally begins to show us a lot more checks and hopefully a decent amount of progression upcoming. Energy tank not being one of them. So Sasquatch probably taking the better of the two options there with the fork in the road. You could either go to labs, missile down there, nice ruins west, or you could go where Sasquatch is going towards the front of Findrana. Front of Findrana potentially gives you more options in terms of where you can go with the elevator, depending on where the elevator goes. And labs, while having a lot of check density, if none of them are Ice Beam, you have to turn back around. Even if you do find Ice Beam and are able to check back back Findrana, you just end up right where you started next to Thardus. Which could potentially put you back toward Chozo Ruins with an Ice Beam, if you have it. So as brought up before, the primary progression these two runners are looking for at the moment are Ice Beam and Various Suit. That is sort of blocking a lot of where they can go elevator-wise. Yeah, didn't get a glimpse as to what was on Canyon. Whereas Sasquatch is liking what he's seeing in the tower here in Shorelines. As we wait on bated breath to see what that was, we're also going to wait on bated breath to see if Jim picks up their flamethrower. And that's Various Suit for Sasquatch. We now have Magmore access. Jim is not happy, but picks it up anyway. So Sasquatch heading to Chozo Ice Temple and Chapel of the Elders. Only able to check Chapel of the Elders unless Chapel of the Elders has Plasma Beam. Because Plasma Beam is what is required for this check right next to him at Chozo Ice Temple. So we'll see at least one of these, although I imagine I'll have a hard time seeing it. But we'll know if it's important, whether or not Sasquatch goes for it or not. Meanwhile, Jim is at their fork in the road. We'll see if they go the same way, resulting in a Various Suit, or if they go labs. Sasquatch finding nothing important. It does look like Jim will follow suit, so Jim remains to be sort of just trailing Sasquatch. We'll get the Various Suit. And maybe a few other things. Jim is a little too far behind to get ahead from this Ice Temple check, should they decide to skip it. But it will save time if they do. Now Sasquatch just going to go ahead and peek into Ice Ruins East, it looks like, as well as check this bottom Shorelines item, all before checking the elevator and potentially heading through it. It's a Powerbomb expansion that Sasquatch cannot get. Powerbomb still eluding both of these runners. Sasquatch just eking out to get that extra missile capacity. Gonna head for the front elevator. See if it's actionable. If not, probably head to labs. Interestingly, though, SpkldJim is also in Ice Ruins East here first. So it remains to be seen whether or not they'll head to Ice Temple. As a result, I don't think they've picked up Various Suit yet. Sasquatch taking this elevator, which will spit them out in Magmore Caverns. So we're going to get Workstation here. Ironically, a place you don't need Various Suit. But does open up some more elevator checks and a couple item checks. Workstation itself being just a missile. Sasquatch, unlikely, or actually impossible to check plasma processing. We'll be heading this way with their Various Suit, which I believe Jim picked up as well. And Sasquatch not even able to check that other elevator back there without Ice Beam, so just a linear path snaking through to the front of Magmore. And this elevator will head to Great Tree Hall. Get another place where you can't really do anything. Well, you can't do... Yeah, you can't really do anything without Ice Beam. Sasquatch does have to watch his health a little bit. As he continues through Magmore. Plenty of checks ahead, but plenty of damaging things as well. SpkldJim will not follow suit to Magmore. They are going back, potentially going to labs. So this is the first major route divergence we've seen. And we're going to see who it pays off for. And Sasquatch, finally, just in the nick of time, finds power bombs. That's going to be one thing Jim will probably not find, at least not in bulk, in labs. Sasquatch also wants what is in this tunnel. Getting the Meme Buster. Full tracker dreams are alive. So evidently picking up an energy tank on the way. Refill that health. Check transport tunnel A and potentially the elevator here with it. As we see Jim dip into labs. So the main thing Jim is looking for back here is Ice Beam, so that they do not have to snake back through. Sasquatch does take this elevator. Looks like it will spit him out at Root Cave. Sasquatch electing to skip grapple beam earlier, at the very least, maybe not seeing it. But now that you have early talent access, there's a handful more checks, and perhaps of importance, artifact hints as well. So far, this has worked out for Sasquatch. But if Jim finds progression or two back here in labs, it could potentially be anyone's game. To be perfectly frank, it's always anyone's game until Phazon or Plasma usually is found. Sasquatch gets the missile expansion in Root Cave, and it's going to do the quick out of bounds here to check Arbor Chamber as well. Fairly low risk with bombs. As Sasquatch, unfortunately, just showed us all. Still a little bit of risk, obviously, that goes with coming out of bounds. As Sasquatch once again demonstrates, usually recoverable. Rewarded with the missile expansion. Jim would have checked Hydra with the X-ray. I didn't see what it was. Regardless, because Jim skipped super missiles earlier, cannot get it. Sass will be checking this elevator. Going to Magmore Lava Lake. In all likelihood, getting the 3 items left down there and potentially popping back out. So that was a missile evidently in Hydra. I didn't get a clear picture as to what Jim saw. It might have been Ice Spreader if they decided to not get it. Or they might not be comfortable getting it without Boost Ball. It did seem to me on the restream, however, that it could have been a beam. Which Jim is still very much looking for. In particular, Ice Beam. Sasquatch definitely finding another Ice Spreader. If that was Ice Beam, it's possible that Jim is maybe hoping to find Boost up here. And may not be comfortable with the slope jump and standable terrain to get Ice Beam. I'm not sure if that trick is in logic. But if it is, Jim could have a hard time up here. Sasquatch, meanwhile, checking one of the things, or the thing in Triclops Pit, which I unfortunately missed, and we'll be checking Storage Cavern to finish out the Magmore checks. Obviously nothing in both, resetting to the save point and going back to Talon. Jim is out to kill Edward. I hate to see it. Still potentially looking for that boost ball. And finds it. So if that was Ice Beam, we'll see them head back real quick here. Maybe after a research core check. Wow. Jim is getting a big payoff here in labs. Phazon suit in research core. Boost ball and Research Lab Aether, and potentially Ice Beam in Observatory. Wow. This has turned into a plasma hunt. Fortunately, Phazon Suit being there does make the labs dark. Thankfully has thermal visor, but it just gets a little more annoying when they're dark. Sasquatch finally about to go to landing site for the first time in the game, where we will finally, hopefully, see artifact hints. So we'll finally have insight to them, as neither of these runners have found one yet. Getting a missile and alcove there. And then either going to frigate crash site or, more than likely, artifact temple. Let's see here pretty quickly if Jim goes for this observatory artifact, either through the jump or through solving the puzzle. We do have one check in Artifact Temple here, along with Artifact Hints. See if it's something like Plasma Beam that might give Sasquatch an edge. It does look like that was an ice spreader. Maybe it was Ice Beam. You'll have to forgive me. I can only watch in so much quality. Oh my! Well, it definitely was an Ice Beam because Sasquatch just found it in Artifact Temple. Jim is able to warp to start though, so they are back in Chozo. If it was a beam in Hydra, which is a check I completely missed, then Jim did not have super missiles. So hopefully Jim goes to check Upper Dynamo here. Gets super missiles. We'll have to go back. I don't know where Jim's going here. Maybe got turned around. Well, it wasn't Plasma, because Plasma is in Frigate Crash Site. This seed is solved. Well, we're about to get artifact hints now. We're going to get Central Dynamo. Still on Central Dynamo there. Phazon Processing Center. Looks like Sass is writing them down. Elite Research. Ventilation Shaft. A lot in mines here. Security Access A. And Life Grove. One not in mines here. So, Sasquatch will have to go to labs to find that Phazon suit. And Boost Ball doesn't hurt either. And it's worth noting that because Jim has Boost Ball, despite the zigzagging they have to do and Sass doesn't, we'll be able to move a lot faster in general. So even though we, as an audience here, know all the pieces both these runners needs, there are still key pieces that each of them do not know. So in all honesty, with the beams in tow here, Sasquatch is probably going to head to mines as soon as they can and get the artifacts. Hope to find Phazon down there, which he will not. Meanwhile, Jim is regretting their life choices, having picked up super missiles, potentially wanting to go back to the areas they were just in. Now, it is worth noting, though, well, never mind. Without that ice beam, they will not be able to take this front elevator. Sass does come back to Chozo as well, which means we're going to get a high five here. High five. And Sass probably looking for mines elevators. Thinking that the elevator they couldn't check in the back of Chozo could be one of them. Or perhaps going from Chozo to Fendrana for labs. We'll see. We know that's the right play, but they'll have to go to mines eventually regardless. Yeah, Sasquatch954 seems to be very anti-grapple beam. One thing Sasquatch might be doing here is routing in the gravity suit, which was ice blocked in antechamber. Yeah, it does seem to be that Jim, meanwhile, is farming a bit for missiles. Only has one, not able to use the super missiles, but is going to get this expansion because that'll get them 5. So we'll see Sasquatch make these 2 checks, grab gravity suit as well. And then probably either head to Fendrana at that point, go for labs, which would be a good play from our perspective. Maybe not so much from Sasquatch's perspective, because if they check the other elevator, and it leads to mines, it is likely they will go for that one. Get you 5 of your 6 artifacts. Won't have boost, but maybe hoping it's there. Jim seems to want to go back to Fendrana, checking that map there, and we'll start heading that way. So both of these runners has key progression that the others don't, which means they're still more or less tied-ish at this moment. What's really going to determine the race is which one of them goes for the area that the other key progression is in. Jim needs to go to the front of Talon to get their remaining 2 beams, and Sasquatch needs to go to labs to get Phazon suit and boost ball if they want it. Checking Elder Chamber will result in more missiles. So we're going to see Sasquatch definitely pick up the gravity suit, I think. Definitely check the back elevator. And then from that check, we'll determine if they take that elevator, which they probably will if it leads to mines, or go to Fendrana instead. For labs and back Chozo. Ooh, falls though. And trying to get some hops off these toads, which are not cooperating. As Jim, not checking those two things, doesn't have ice or plasma, and going pretty much to where Sasquatch is, but will be forced to go the Fendrana route once again. Where Sasquatch, with the ice beam, check this route, which will lead to Phazon Mines, and Sasquatch will take that. So, we're going to see Sasquatch get the artifacts a lot earlier than Jim, which could honestly be a determining factor if they both find the other progression around the same time. So we're going to see Sasquatch clear most, if not all, potentially, of mines here. Check the other elevator. And see where it leads. If not, come back here, maybe go back to Fendron and then go to Labs. So that gravity suit does give Sass a little bit of more damage reduction. Checking PCA, seeing its missiles. Jim desperately wanting to get through Fendrana here. It's possible Jim thought something was in Hydra and might be going back for it, or just beelining it for that Magmore elevator, knowing that it is the hub they need to get to places like Talon Overworld. Sasquatch having a little bit of a hard time here getting to that first artifact. Also worth noting, Jim has not had power bombs and will be rewarded with them when they check Warrior Shrine. Now, I guess Jim never got Various Suit. At one point they scanned it, but I thought they had grabbed it. I was watching Sass at the time, so it was poor assumption on my part. That's on my bad, fellas. Either way, they have it now and will definitely be going to Magmore. You know what it was? They couldn't because they didn't have super missiles. I didn't realize that at the time. I apologize. Sasquatch will be going for second artifact here in Ventilation Shaft, as they may commit to lower mines, looking for that Phazon suit. So now Jim will make more or less the same route potentially the Sasquatch did, but with more in tow. So Jim is on track to find the two beams, early, get the artifact hints around the same time, look for way to mines, and once they get their artifacts, they're just going to be looking for a way back to Artifact Temple. Where Sasquatch might have a little more zigzag path ahead of him, because they're going to be scrambling looking for Phazon suit. So we have an interesting race here. I think it'll largely depend on where Sasquatch goes after mines. Sasquatch is going to be in mines for a while, getting artifacts. Jim skipping the Great Tree Hall elevator, knowing they will need Ice Beam to go anywhere up there. Sasquatch getting his third artifact. I do think with the elevators that are left, main quarry could be vanilla or French vanilla. So it seems like Sasquatch here is setting up a save word potentially. Though they have what they need to clear lower mines here. I'm not sure. It's possible they know that there's no artifacts down here, just looking for Phazon suit, really. But then you loop back to PPC when you're done, so... Not sure. Jim is not taking the Talon bait, at least not yet. Probably going to check the rest of these Magmor checks. We'll find power bombs. And then maybe head to Talon after. Jim skipping right past that wave buster, robbing us of full tracker potential. Sass going into lower mines, not going to find anything, I don't think, at this point, other than ice spreaders, E-tanks, missiles, and PB expansions. Meanwhile, going to their last Magmor check, which I believe is an ice spreader. And then, I believe both the elevator they'll be near, as well as the elevator back at Transport Tunnel A, will both lead to front Talon in some way. So, in theory, Jim goes to Talon and finds the last two beams. I did forget to mark gravity suit for both of these people. As well as power bombs for Jim. And then at that point, get the artifact hints and go where Sasquatch is going, but in a more efficient way, being in no mode at that point. So Sasquatch is going to have to commit to labs pretty soon after this Phazon Mines trip if he wants a chance at taking the lead. Otherwise, this will be Jim's race to lose. But anything could happen. Jim is going back potentially to that first Talon elevator. Just checking the other one is a bit of a commitment. Seeing Sasquatch go for Mega Pirate. Has supers, has plasma. But what do you guys think? E-tank, missile, ice spreader, power bomb? Who's everyone's favorite oversized pirate gonna have? Jim finally going to Talon Overworld. More than one room in. Gonna grab some items, do an elevator check, and then get the ice beam. Probably get the plasma beam. Then go for artifacts. Jim is on the track for success here as soon as they find an elevator to mines. But Sasquatch could catch up. Chat, we've got one vote for an energy tank on OP and one vote for a missile. Jim also not doing the arbor chamber check there. Won't need it as soon as they find plasma in all likelihood. Unless they do frigate crash site before artifact temple. Fortunately, Sasquatch did not get that final super missile in time, and so we'll have to two-phase this boss. All while dealing with three troopers. This result is largely because of the fact that Jim chose to commit to labs early. Unfortunately, Jim did not have super missiles, so was not able to capitalize on that call. But in all honesty, probably went to labs because they did not have super missiles. So, even still, it looks like the super missile skip was probably beneficial for Jim. But we'll see, because Sasquatch will have a bunch of artifacts in tow by the time he finds Phazon. SpkldJim getting the ice beam. Now we're getting the same artifact checks. Central Dynamo, Liaison Processing Center, Elite Research, Ventilation Shaft, Security Access A, and Life Grove. We now see SAS commit to upper mines. And depending on where this elite research artifact is, we could see SAS try to go for it without boost ball if it's on the top. Ideally, it's on the bottom, and SAS doesn't have to deal with that. But if it's at the top, either going to take SAS a while to very slowly turn that spinner without boost ball, or find boost balls somewhere else. We know it's in labs and come back for it later. Jim, meanwhile, about to get the good news. You know, I don't think Jim got Gravity Suit. They couldn't, because they didn't have Ice Beam. I apologize. Mistracking all over the place. Who would have thought attention could be divided when you're doing several jobs at once? With that plasma beam and those artifact knowledges in place, Jim is in no mode. All they have to do is go collect artifacts and then beat the game. Sasquatch, meanwhile, desperately looking for Phazon. Without Boost Ball, Sasquatch will have to take the slightly longer front route to Elite Research. Getting some checks on the way, but we'll have to track back to this elevator, which will likely lead him to Life Grove. Not sure why Plasma Beam didn't track for Jim. To uncheck and recheck. Well, it's not showing up, but Jim does have Plasma Beam. In case anyone missed it. Sasquatch about to get one more artifact and hopefully a fifth. Looks like SpkldJim heading to the back of Chozo, maybe now going to pick up Gravity Suit. And finding the same mines elevator that Sass did. Knowing it's one of the few elevators they've not checked yet. There's Plasma Beam. I know you can do it. Sasquatch continuing to trek through upper mines here, and unfortunately, based on what we're seeing, it looks like Sasquatch will be a little, probably getting out of mines towards when Jim enters. Potentially. Jim might have more of a head start than that, based on where this last artifact is. But Sasquatch still going to be looking for that Phazon suit. And with Gravity, probably going to do Frigate after getting the last artifact. And leave Labs last. And this could potentially be a close to last location check for Phazon suit for Sass, which will probably be just too much time. I'm finally getting their Gravity suit, despite the fact that I mismarked it many minutes ago. Having just about everything at this point except Wavebuster. You hate to see it. Although it is worth noting, Jim is double checking elevator connections. Hopefully they will check the mines elevator right next to them. Otherwise, it may give Sasquatch a fighting chance. Yeah, so Sasquatch, meanwhile, getting good news. Won't have to spend time in the spinner. Just has to destroy the Phazon Elite. And get his 5th artifact. Jim does check the elevator, does go to mines, and now we will see Jim follow suit with Sasquatch, collecting artifacts. The difference being, we won't see Jim make any unnecessary checks. This is going to be go mode mines, essentially. Just here for the artifacts. We're going to see a lot more quicker of mines from Jim. and then off to final bosses. So Sasquatch really going to have to commit to labs soon here. Otherwise, it will be too late. Is he going to pick up this save station, either warping or setting a reset point? Be just saving for now. Probably has to suspect that this last elevator will take him to Life Grove area, but we'll see. Meanwhile, Jim beginning their artifact trek. Getting their first one. And didn't go to Vent Shaft or Central Dynamo, which is an interesting routing choice, because ideally you want to pick those up, pop up here, and get your last three, but we'll see. We'll see what they're thinking. So Sasquatch is an essentially new area. Life Grove, Great Tree Hall, Frigate, and probably will take the Frigate bait once they check the rest of the areas. We'll get his last artifact. Ooh, but we'll have to do reverse bar skip, because guess who doesn't have boost ball? Now, despite appearances, reverse bar skip is a little more difficult than regular bar skip. I believe the opening is slightly larger on this side. However, the platform that you have to sort of stay on, as you can see, is very, very small. Sasquatch might be here for a little bit, as Jim, not letting up, getting their second artifact on their way to the third. If Sasquatch gives up here, we could see them warp to start, which would put them in Chozo, but they can get to the elevator up top and do normal bar skip to get out from the front of Chozo. From there, though, he still has to get to Fendrana and Labs. So Sasquatch, unfortunately, in a position where every failed attempt at this is going to cost more time, lessen his chance of beating Jim Snow Mode here. Does get it, though, which is a feat in itself. I've done that trick before, but can't remember the last time I did it, so props to Sasquatch for getting reverse bar skip. Gonna pick up his last artifact up here. We'll probably then have to normal bar skip, or else go to Chozo if he doesn't want to do Frigate. We will see. Meanwhile, Jim fighting Phase on the lead on their end, about to pick up third artifact. And it will be interesting from this point where Jim decides to go. They have two artifacts in mid-lower mines, but then they have to come up here to Life Grove to get the sixth artifact, which Sasquatch just got. Ideally, he would have picked up the mid-lower mines artifacts first, but did not. And so it will be a little bit of a roundabout collection. And Jim will have to route themselves back to Talon afterward. So all that will take time. Unfortunately, I don't think it will be enough for Sasquatch to commit to Labs. And Sasquatch realizing this is not going to happen without Boost Ball. can move it, but I don't think you can move it far and fast enough without boost. Sasquatch, give up. Give up and go to labs. You know you want to. There's so many checks there. Well, Jim will be going to get the bottom 2 artifacts. Sasquatch actually got that. I didn't catch how. Shows what I know. But from here, likely goes to Frigate because it's right next door. Hopefully goes to Labs because that's what he needs to have a chance at winning here. Fortunately, Sasquatch is now at the bottom of Life Grove Tunnel without Boost Ball. You now have to do quite bad bomb jumps to get out. So Sasquatch is just losing time here with all the unfortunate tricks he has to do. Based on what I just saw, I'm sure this is possible for Sasquatch, but just eating away time. And it looks like, meanwhile, Jim getting their 4th artifact. Sasquatch will reset. He was able to get over this half pipe on the way to Life Grove, but not on the way back. So, Sasquatch is in a precarious position here. Does he retry the 6th artifact and hope not to drop? Or commit to Frigate, commit to Labs, and then have to come back for it? Sass is not in a good position here, as Jim is just slowly collecting the artifacts they need. At the very least, Sasquatch is going back to the same area. It would seem that he is retrying for the 6th artifact. Hopefully it pans out. From there, who knows? Likely Frigate. But we'll see. Artifact number 5 for Jim. Jim just now has to get the artifact that Sasquatch was going for, but now Sasquatch going for Sunken Frigate. Not going to find anything down here either. And I'm going to warp to start here. Interesting, because an elevator in the front of mines would have taken there. Jim, unfortunately, getting turned around again at the starting room. Looking for Magmore or Talon access. Now, I'm betting that Jim goes for the elevator at the front of Chozo Ruins here, because it's gonna put them in a good position for that last artifact. But from there, might have to do reverse frigate anyway, just to get to Artifact Temple. Or else find a quick elevator. Sasquatch not liking what he finds and resetting. Once again having to decide. Go for the 6th artifact. Or go for labs. Now, pretty quickly, whether or not Sasquatch decides to warp. Not warping. Going for that 6th artifact again. Hopefully it doesn't take him too long. Or maybe... Well, I can't imagine he'd go for the nearby elevator. Because that would just take her to Chozo, which you could get to by warping. So I don't know. Jim does take the Magmore elevator, though, interestingly enough. I don't think that was the correct elevator to take, but it will get Jim to Talon eventually. At this point, I'm slightly wondering if Jim has remembered the 6th artifact or not. I would imagine that they would, but we'll see. Sasquatch once again going for, at the very least, Upper Great Tree Chamber or Hall. Excuse me. Hall's more of a shaft that's divided into, you know. Gets it easily enough. And from here, showing some frustration. And once again, going for the 6th artifact. May the bomb jumps be ever in your favor. Sasquatch checking that elevator, deciding not to go for it. I don't want to say it's an incorrect play, because if Sasquatch can get this artifact and then go there, that would be optimal. But if Sasquatch messes up again and again, it's just going to cost time you frankly can't afford. Jim is hot on his trail, and they have boost ball. So we are not going to see the same issues from Jim here. Oof. Sasquatch is not happy. Jim, on the other hand, effortlessly gets the last artifact. A little trouble staying on the spike here, but will at this point look for a way back to Artifact Temple, as Jim is officially in go mode. No Wave Buster, feels bad. Unfortunately, Sass caught in a bit of a loop here. Though we might see him go for the elevator this time. I'm sure he really wants to get that last artifact instead of having to backtrack for it once he finds boosts later. Jim has their route locked in, going for that root cave elevator, which will get them very close to Artifact Temple. And then we will be at final bosses. So it's interesting how this happened, right? Sasquatch showing frustration at the spinner. Got the supers early. Was able to pick up Varia, was able to go to Magmore, which had the network of elevators. In theory, the smarter play. But as a result of that, missed labs, and was not able to route in labs up until this point. So because of the oversight that Jim made with supers, Jim was able to fully commit to labs and then make up what Sasquatch did ahead of Jim. So it's kind of a classic Rando case of sometimes you can do everything right, so to speak. But if Rando's going to Rando, sometimes that path is just going to be just weird enough to give you the advantage. So Jim is in Talon. Sasquatch is too, but still doing that reverse bar skip. And this seed wasn't particularly slow, but it was one where, quote, making the right plays punished you. Which is unfortunate if you're not able to make up for it with the combination of speed and tricks. Sasquatch does get the reverse bar skip again. We'll see if he can get the bomb jumps. Sasquatch is not happy right now, going so far as to put why with a lot of question and exclamation marks in the race time chat. Meanwhile, Jim, boost ball in hand, going to fight Meta Ridley. Finally killing Ridley once and for all. Because they have boost ball, once they are able to fire off 4 charged plasma shots here at the flying phase, not getting flyby skip, all they have to do is wait for Ridley to land, boost into his chest, and because of an oversight, it will dramatically reduce Ridley's health enough to activate the second phase. Ridley cares not about the confines of physical walls. Does get the boost. A little bit stuck under Ridley, but is now suddenly in phase 2. See if Ridley is kind, or if Jim will have to fend off some charges. Able to get the snipe. Nicely done. Sasquatch, meanwhile, has decided to work to start. And a pretty clean Meta Ridley fight from Jim as we head to Impact Crater. At this point, Sasquatch, who I believe might have skipped Flagra and Sun Chamber, might be considering going there, or hopefully will be considering going to Phendrana Labs. Heading towards the back, which is a good direction for him to go in. Unfortunately, unless Jim has a wildly unfortunate time in Impact Crater here with Metroid Prime, this is absolutely Jim's race to lose. Able to get that slope jump. The third try. Ending off the Metroid so far. We're getting a little bodied. Probably in the clear now, though. Sasquatch now making the right play, but at the cost of leaving the artifact behind. I believe at this point Jim would have to have multiple late deaths for Sasquatch to catch up. But at the very least we are seeing Sasquatch make the right plays now. Now, if Sasquatch does go backwards, does back Phendrana, and then heads to Research Core and sees Phazon-Su, chances are Sasquatch may not go further into Aether to get Boost Ball, even though Boost Ball is what's blocking that 6th artifact. So we'll see just how important Boost Ball is to Sasquatch once he finds Phazon-Su. Meanwhile, SpkldJim has already made quick work of the first subchamber, Metroid Prime. The second subchamber, which introduces Ice Beam, the subchamber 1's Wave and Power Beam vulnerabilities, will probably be made in quick work based on what I'm seeing. Jim is going for snipes, which are fairly exactly positioned and very precisely timed. Even gets a super missile snipe, which, believe me, is a little more difficult than it looks. And because Jim has 17 million ice spreaders, Ice Phase is almost a joke. Now, I don't think either runner checked back Phendrana yet. So while we are seeing fresh checks from Sasquatch here for a little bit, not going to amount to anything until Research Core. Jim already at the third subchamber, introducing Plasma. And then soon enough, subchamber 4, which will also have all 4, as well as much RNG. Unfortunately, Jim has depleted their missile count fairly quickly. So, at least for the time being, unable to use Ice Spreader or Super Missiles to quicken these later subchambers. So, despite knowing the sort of AI manipulation where you get close to an exoskeleton to sort of provoke some melee attacks, here in this fourth subchamber, Jim seems to be keeping their distance a little bit, making this slightly slower, but plenty of health, full damage reduction. One more decent hit on Exo. It's the final phase of the boss. The whole reason everyone makes a fuss about Phazon suit. So with full visors here, and Phazon suit, Essence will be as quick as you can make it. Essence will lay Phazon pools. You stand in them to shoot Phazon to damage the boss. Ideally, you do one of two techniques to make it fast. Likely here at the top we'll see an attack cancel, where you shoot Essence as soon as it completes its attack prep. See Jim basically waiting until the chin stabilizes there, and it will lay a pull after about 6 of those. However, if Essence is on top of the exoskeleton carcass, which it is right now, it will do something called a pull skip, which it just did, where it will transition visors and not lay a pull, making the attack cancel a moot point. So now Jim has to wait in thermal visor mode for a few more pulls. And in the last one we may see a technique called pull cancel, where they will go in and out. Pretty quick succession, do as much damage as possible instead of trying to provoke another pull just to try and finish it off. Very good attack cancel from Jim there. We may see another one, or we may see a pull cancel. Looks like they're going for the pull cancel, and as long as they're able to do enough damage, that will be a finish from SpkldJim. Meanwhile, Sasquatch finally finding the Phazon suit and boost ball. And not happy about it. Not happy at all. And with that, we have a win from SpkldJim and a forfeit from Sasquatch. At the very least, Sasquatch getting Phazon suit and harassing boost ball. SpkldJim, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
GG and Sasquatch954, welcome.
Hello.
Well, it was a pretty follow the leader in the beginning, and then in Phendrana Drifts, the split that essentially determined the outcome happened, wherein Jim went to labs because they did not have supers. And Sasquatch continued on with Varia in hand to Magmor. Sasquatch, I saw some frustration there at the end. How do you feel about this boost ball and Phazon suit location?
I'll just say I don't like boost ball.
Mm.
I'm frustrated with that boostless life grove too. I've done it plenty of times, but it just wasn't working out today.
Worst room in the game, Life Grove Tunnel.
True that.
Jim,
Yeah.
you skipped supers in the beginning, which I believe were in Upper Dynamo, even though you had Spider Ball.
Yes, that one was a bit of an accident. I didn't realize until I was partway through labs, I believe, that, oh wait, you know, I have Spider, I can do Upper Dynamo. So I was like fingers crossed for all of labs that it would hopefully have something useful. But I knew I could just save warp out of there if I needed to. So it wasn't the biggest deal, but seeing the Varia suit and then thinking, okay, you know, I'm just missing supers, where do I go next? And seeing all these Ice Beam doors everywhere, I thought Upper Dynamo would have been Ice Beam. But yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting because you were getting Boost Ball and Phazon Suit around the time the Sasquatch found Ice and Plasma Beam. And so for a while there, we didn't know where the sort of diverging routes would lead, because Sasquatch could have gone to labs later, or you could have gone to Talon around the same time. Unfortunately, when Sasquatch got the artifact hints and basically said, go to mines, with all the beams in hand, Sasquatch banked pretty hard on mines looking for Phazon and probably Boost.
Yeah.
Any other memorable moments that either of you have from this race?
Not that I can really think of. I'm
Um,
still just kind of shaken at the moment, so I can't remember what happened yet.
All right. Well, despite the frustrating situations both of you incurred, you guys did do a fantastic job. So congratulations on a good race. SpkldJim, this will put you at 3-2. One more
Yeah,
win to get to the 4-2 area.
I was not expecting the win this time, to be honest, because I don't really practice much randomized elevator seeds. But I thought, you know, it'd be a laugh, it'd be a lot of fun, and nice change from the rules. So thanks for proposing it, Sasquatch. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, look forward to watching the VOD.
Yeah.
yeah, same here. I play, you know, random elevators, random start on my personal preset, but I also shuffle Artifact Temple, Crater Entry Point, and those can be a lot of fun. But I didn't want to make it too funky, you know, for you, because you're not very experienced with random elevators.
Yeah, I'd love to try one of the ones where the elevators are shuffled both directions. I think like that would be a crazy one to try, but maybe it would be a bit long going for a tournament match.
Yeah. Very interesting runners agreements, to be sure. We did thoroughly enjoy the essentially starting with Zoid. Boy, were we surprised when bombs were on Zoid, let me tell you. So yeah, all around it was a good time. Hopefully you guys have fun whenever you watch the race back.
Yeah.
Anything else before we sign off here?
Just that I probably would have preferred if Boost was on Zoid.
I imagine,
but
given
I
what you just
can
tried to do, yeah. I can imagine so. Okay, well, I think that will do it for us this evening. Thank you both again. Be sure to follow the runners for more Metroid Prime randomizer action. Thank you both for racing. You can also follow myself, should you desire. You can check out the Metroid
follow
Prime.
Elias.
Do it.
Thank
And
you
also-
for calming and doing it solo for this one.
No, it's always a fun time whenever you have to riff off yourself and keep track of items and both players all at the same time. It's a spiritual experience. You can also check out the Metroid Prime Randomizer Discord, where you can find even more tournaments organized with more Prime games and even combinations of Prime games, as well as just general camaraderie and weekly races. And with all that said, I think that'll do it for us. There will be more races this coming weekend, finishing off round 5 of this Swiss bracket. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you next mission. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Bye bye.